All right, Vedant, thank you so much for your time today. I really, really appreciate you giving me the time. I know you had a busy day and you just came from an event. We had a quick chat, and you definitely bring forth the energy that I see on your social media and on LinkedIn and everywhere else that you're available, which I love. I love when people are consistent with what they project. Which there's nothing wrong when people try to fake it till you make it. There's nothing wrong with that, but you seem to have the same energy, which is awesome. Um, I want to start with your story because and I would say maybe we'll go back a little bit into high school because you're in university now, but I'm looking at the you got a scholarship, which is such a huge achievement, not just from the sheer value of it, monetary value. Like I think that's amazing, but also because I'm willing. I don't know the exact statistics on how many people applied for that, but even if the numbers aren't that high, the quality of people that probably apply for this scholarship is definitely something that it's mind-boggling and hard to wrap my mind around. So I want to start there. How did you even find the scholarship? Like how does someone live life in high school and then and you're from India, right?
I'm from Mumbai, India.
Exactly. So across the world, how do you find a communication with somewhere a university in Toronto, which is world renowned for sure, but how does that come across your table?
So I think the goal was always making robots and having fun. I just accidentally ended up stumbling upon the Lester B. Pearson Scholarship at UofT. So I'd say my story started back in high school, maybe the fifth, sixth grade,
Okay.
when I was super intrigued by robots. And as every high schooler who's super into robotics, I wanted to go for the first robotics championship and World Robotics Olympiad. But back then, this was about, I'd say 2017, 2018, 2019, 3D printers were extremely expensive. And I really, really wanted a 3D printer to prototype all of these different robotics projects I was working on. And they cost about $700 back then, and it was a huge amount in Indian rupees for me. And it was those old clunky flashforge 3D printers we used to get. So I'm like, there must be a cheaper way to do this. So I think I spent the next year and a half of my life just going to all the different, old electronics recycling stores and buying CD and DVD drives people had thrown out of their houses. And before I get into how I built a 3D, one of India's most economical 3D printers, let's run over very quickly how a 3D printer works.
Yeah.
So, you know, I know a lot of you are artsy and might have worked with a glue gun before on different projects. So you can think of it as maybe you're taking a glue gun and drawing layer on top of layer on top of layer on top of layer on top of layer with a glue gun. Eventually, you'll end up with a 3D object, right? So I think people overcomplicate 3D printers quite a bit, but it's quintessentially the same thing, instead of your hands, you've got an X, you've got a Y, you've got a Z axis. So that gives you the ability to move in three dimensions, and you can simply stick the glue gun on there and it'll make you a 3D object. Now, instead of a glue gun, we use ABS or PLA plastic with a hot end, which heats it up and extrudes it into different shapes we'd like. It's the same material Lego bricks are made out of. So I think, just building up from base principles, we made an X, Y, and Z axis with your DVD and CD drives, followed by sticking a hot end on there. And somehow it worked. It started printing 3D objects. And we saw that we're not the only people in India who'd want access to a cheaper 3D printer. So we started going to colleges across the country, universities, taking guest lectures on how to get into the entire tinker culture or maker culture, build all of this stuff. And I think that was a massive success. By the end of the journey, we ended up in over 30 plus publications, TEDx, Joe Stocks, a bunch of really good places, which were all really stepping stones. And then one of my seniors, Kalash, told me about the Lester B. Pearson Scholarship. And I applied for it, got in touch with the admissions team. It was a very smooth process. They loved everything I did, everything I stood for. And yep, that landed me up at the
Wow.
University of Toronto. I think I'm very grateful to the benevolent donors at U of T for putting this full ride scholarship together, which covers my tuition, meals, gives me a stipend. I really couldn't be more grateful.
That's amazing. That's amazing, and I love that we have these kinds of programs for individuals like yourself, because I think at the end of the day, meritocracy of intelligence is what really matters. Now I want to ask, right? Were all of your group of friends, especially like when you were thinking about the 3D printer and working with robots, were your group of friends into this kind of thing, or your friends were into the regular kid stuff, and then here you are with robots as a separate life? I'm curious to know if you had like a split life in that way.
I, I think I had a very diverse group of friends.
Okay.
Some were super cracked at robotics, did very well, building 3D printers and robots.
Yeah.
I actually built a 3D printer with my high school best friend back in the day.
Okay.
And then
Nice.
it, went into a full-blown startup. A few others were really, really good at dance. They were competing at a national level. Some others were, killing it at entrepreneurship. Some were doing amazing community service. But I think the one common trait throughout my friend group was determination. All of them were at it, like super different fields, art, music, you name it and you'll find it. But they were super determined at what they were doing and always had a bias to action. Like there'd be so many times we'd meet up for dinner and a few ideas would, go around the table. And in the next week, you'll see someone's already building it. So I think
Nice.
that's what really drove me to actually take the first step and start building stuff.
That's amazing. Is that part of like Mumbai culture, you think, of determination of like getting stuff done and just putting your mind to things and taking it to the top?
100%. So India is a country of 1.4 billion people, and there are a lot of resources, but many times you have to fight for them. So in that entire drive, you really need to put yourself out there to get these opportunities, get into these different circles, maybe get invested in. So yes, it definitely is a part of Mumbai culture, moving very fast and grinding really hard.
How was the what if you could compare the Mumbai culture of working and school to the Toronto? And I know maybe for Toronto, I've been here for long, but just what have you been exposed to so far? What do you see some differences? What do you think Mumbai does better? What do you think Toronto does better? And sorry to put you in that position. Maybe they're both great. We would love both.
So I think I love both Mumbai and Toronto. Uh, Both of them are extremely diverse cities and super accepting, no matter who you are, no matter what you're doing. I see the biggest difference in, I'd say, Mumbai versus Toronto engineering and entrepreneurship is design thinking. Many a times in Mumbai, it's all about getting the math right, building the most efficient algorithm, optimizing it to do the best possible calculations. But in Toronto, it's a lot about user interface and user experience. People are very, very actively thinking about, okay, sure, the algorithm's great, but how can I make the most seamless tutorial for an end user to use it? So a lot of focus is there on design thinking out here, which I find missing in Mumbai, which, at some point I really want to bring back because at the end, it's the UI and UX user interfaces with, right?
Yeah.
So you've got a lot of amazing coders and math guys back in Mumbai, but I think Toronto really, really shines when it comes to UI and UX. Like you've got Shopify building out of here, one of the world's cleanest UI UXs for websites. So
I love it.
yeah, I'd say that's that for Toronto.
Interesting. I love that. That's so yeah. I think I've seen that as well. So I'm from Albania originally. So I think when I look at the work cultures and and school cultures as well, I think I see the exact same comparison with Albania. Albania is very similar to what you described with Mumbai compared to Toronto. Um, I want to talk a little bit about I think AI is the buzzing word, right? But you kind of grew up in the AI boom, which is really interesting to me because I know you have experience with software and hardware. It does seem like hardware is kind of your has your heart, but I don't think you can separate them. But I want to get your perspective. What is it like as someone that's growing up in a field where software is taking off at such a quick trajectory, but it's impacting hardware because hardware is also is hardware in terms of robotics, but even in terms of the compute that we're building out that's going to support hardware. Like it's kind of a symbiotic relationship. But I'd like to know, where does Vedant stand in that, or how has your journey been standing in this time?
So, I initially started off with the good old Arduinos and ESP32s and microcontrollers because I was a very hands-on guy. I wanted to see lights blinking. Yep, perfect. The good old breadboard. You want to see lights blinking, motors moving, capacitors blowing up. But somewhere down the line, you realize that hardware and software are getting more and more interconnected than ever. For example, back in the day, we'd have Intel make its CPU, Nvidia make its GPU, the game developers build their own software, and sure, both of them work together. But as algorithms are getting more advanced and compute heavy, really, we're having to build dedicated hardware or ASICs, that's application specific integrated circuits for a lot of different applications. For example, if you see all the newer Toronto startups like Grok and Talas HC1, what they're doing is, or even Cerebras for that matter. Shout out to my professor Von Betts, for teaching me a lot about these different wafer scale chips. All of these guys are making extremely custom hardware designed to run a specific group of AI models or inferencing for a very specific set of neural nets. And you see that hardware is getting more and more specific and tailored to software, which we've never seen before. Now, there are definitely two sides to this. On one end, it's amazing because you can do so much more when you have dedicated hardware, which consumes less energy and does a task more efficiently. But the flip side to it is software iterates at a very quick rate. And when you have a new model tomorrow, that entire silicon chip that's come from TSMC in Taiwan gets thrown away because you need a new model of hardware with a new model of software, which might become slightly disastrous in the long run. Although we're just in the phase where everyone's experimenting with it, because honestly, most of computing right now works with digital logic, right? Zeros and ones, binaries. But a lot of people are moving away and exploring quantum computing, analog computing, biocomputing. I've seen so many new up and coming technologies with a lot of merit, and this might be getting a tad bit technical, but a lot of us might have learned in high school physics. We've got two types of transistors, right? PNP and NPS, just simple MOSFET transistors. In my iPhone right here, I think there are about 2 billion sitting on the Apple silicon chip. And these are getting so tiny that they're 50 silicon atoms wide now. And very quickly, if they get tinier, the electron will start jumping the middle doping layer, effectively bridging the transistor. So we're at a point in history where Moore's law is failing for one of the first times, and we need a fundamentally new way of computing. So whether that's quantum, analog, something else, I'm not too certain, but something new is around the corner, because instead of chips getting smaller, what started happening is hardware and data centers have started getting bigger. And as a consumer, if you notice, in the last 2 years itself, from most of the compute happening on your laptop, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, everything's moved to the cloud side. Google Sheets, something like OpenAI's ChatGPT takes up gigabytes and gigabytes of VRAM for a single prompt you throw in.
Yeah.
And our pieces of hardware are just not capable of computing that anymore. And not to forget, these data centers are guzzling gallons and gallons of water somewhere far away, taking gigawatts of electricity at a very unsustainable rate. So yes, Lulu, I do agree with you. Getting newer, better, more efficient hardware is one of the only ways forward.
Yeah. So with everything that AI is causing, like I just turned 30 years old recently. It's definitely had me think about like where does my career go from here, right? Because I'm super on top of AI. I've been implementing AI agents at work, and even outside of work, I'm constantly I made this app, but I'm also making a second app, and I'm constantly playing with stuff. I feel like if I was in your position, I'd have a lot more anxiety, because it's like, where do you go? Which direction do you go? Do you go the software startup? There's a lot of noise saying that, well, software is dead. I disagree with that, but how does someone like yourself allocate the time and the talent in the school phase? Or do you go to hardware? Because hardware seems to be like the obvious answer. But as you know, in history, the obvious answer is usually not the answer that ends up actually happening. I'd love to know how you, from a student's perspective, how do you see the world as it's changing?
So I'd say both hardware and software are extremely important. We need guys building both of these technologies simultaneously. From my specific perspective, I just have two metrics to choose which projects I work on.
Okay.
One, I should find it fun. Like if I don't get kicks every morning to wake up and work on it, it's probably not the project. And the second one is work on projects with a giant TAM or total addressable market. You want projects that are impacting a large number of people, and you've got the best chance of succeeding. There, whether it's a startup, whether it's a passion project, whether it's just something you're building for the community. Make sure there's a huge addressable market and you have fun.
I love it. I love it. And you actually brought me to a question that I've had in my mind since we scheduled this chat. You do a lot, and you've been doing a lot for a lot of years. It's not like you just started, right? I think just based on what I saw, at least in the last 4 to 5 years, you've been doing. I'm sure even before that. So I'd like to ask you, like, this is a lot of energy. This is a lot of stress. This is a lot of, like, are you the kind of person that just doesn't reflect of like, oh, this is hard, or oh, this sucks, or oh, I'm not good enough, or hey, I'm stressed out? Or are you the kind of person who just, hey man, like I'm just gonna do what I'm gonna do, whatever happens happens? Like, take us through your process of how are you able to do so much, and again, we haven't even started to speak about your other projects other than right now we're at school and what you've done up to the school part, but I'd love to know because I think a lot of people have this self consciousness of like I'm too tired. I don't have. I feel like I'm gonna fail. I'm scared. You look like you're breaking all the rules. So walk us through that.
Honestly, I do feel all these emotions time to time. If anything, every 2 weeks I'm waking up with palpitations, thinking, okay, am I doing the wrong thing? Like, is my startup going to ever work out? Am I making a right decision by taking a gap year from school? Like, you know, all these different thoughts are always circling around my head. But in such moments of anxiety, I just give myself two pieces of advice. Uh, do your best and F the rest. The second one is a little Hindi saying
Okay.
that says, "Don't worry about LKK or log kya kahenge."
Okay.
That's what will people say.
Okay.
Don't really care about what the people around you are saying, because no matter what you're building or doing, people are going to have some critical advice, right? Because when Uber first started, people were like, "This is the stupidest idea. Like, I can put my hand out for a second and I can hail a cab so quickly. Why would I take the effort of taking out my phone, finding a cab driver, then it'll take 3 minutes to match me with another one? It's unnecessary."
Yeah.
A very similar story for Airbnb when Brian Chesky started. They're like, "Isn't it a very weird concept letting people into your homes and making it a hotel?" And you know, I think every big idea out there has had a lot of critics. Uh, Not saying every idea you have will be a big idea, but it's always best to treat it as one and go for it. Apart from that, no, I think I just have a lot of fun doing my projects. And one important thing I found is when you're building and working such long hours, the people you're working with really matter. So apart from being technically brilliant, they have to be people you can just go and get a beer with or like chill with
Yeah.
and have
Yeah.
fun
Yeah.
with. You
I
should
love
look
it.
up to them.
I love it. So you definitely seem like you're someone that has an old soul. But I love to ask you this as well before we go on to your project and what you're working on right now. So my app here, it actually came for like what I wanted to do. So I fast and I'm very specific about sleeping. Like I like to sleep early and sleep well. I wake up early, etc. Do you kind of engineer your eating habits and sleeping, or are you at that age? Because when I was your age, I was sleeping every day at like 4 a.m., waking up at 9 a.m. to get to lectures and to get to school and to university. And I was fine. But somewhere around like I want to say 28, 29, that doesn't work anymore, at least for me. So I had to be very careful. Do you watch what you eat? Do you sleep well, or are you just kind of doing what you do?
Oh, Lurio. As much as I'd love to come and, give some really profound advice about the importance of sleeping right, eating right, exercising right, uh, it's a phase where I'm struggling to get all these factors right in myself. Although I am currently in the process of reading up about it and trying to correct my spoiled habits,
Good.
partly due to the startup culture and staying in office all night, all day, and then
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
managing side by side. But yes, you know what? I think that's something you'd be able to give me some good advice on.
Yeah. No, I think it's really important because when you're young, you think you can do everything, and for someone like yourself who is doing a lot and you're getting a lot of validation that you're doing the right thing, go go go. you may leave your health a bit to the side. I'll be fine, I'm getting such good stuff. But the thing is, it's great that you're doing all of this, but if your health is not going to be great in 10 years, 15 years, then is it really worth it, right? Vedant has to come first. I'm a huge believer of that. Now, I do think you need to sacrifice a little bit, so you have to find the right balance. And as much as I can tell you, I think it'll always be you who makes the best decision for yourself. But I'm sure you'll figure it out. You'll be fine. You'll be fine.
I do agree with you, Lurio, because there was a time last academic semester when I overloaded myself with, the startup or research laboratory, academics. I used to take guest lectures at another university. And by the end of it, I felt so sick. I wasn't able to do any of it. So, yes, I do agree taking more care of my health is something at the forefront.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I'm sure you'll do a great job. So yeah, now I want to talk a little bit about everything else you're doing, right? So while you've done all great stuff at university, which no doubts there, but you've also started a startup here in Toronto. And funny enough, just to kind of name drop, I saw that you had a video with Ven, and you guys had a meeting with Ven. So one of the co-founders, Ahmed, I grew up with him. We
Hey,
went
awesome.
to the same, we were in the same class, same neighborhood. So Toronto is a great place, a big place, but also not so big. So it was great to see you guys connect with them. But walk me through the birth of Auditorium AI and how that came to be.
So I think Ryan is who's my co-founder, is also a Lester B. Pearson Scholar. He's from Nairobi, Kenya, and
Nice.
we ended up becoming roommates in the first year. And he'd play the violin. I knew how to do light design. So a lot of late night jamming sessions in the room with him playing his instrument, me doing the lights, and that's where we tend to notice that there's a gap in the market. There are so many very talented DJs, artists, and so many lovely little venues in Queen Street, Ossington, uh, George Street, all of these neighborhoods, which have a lot of venues, but due to financial constraints, aren't able to access world class production, similar to what you'd find at a very upscale venue like Rebel or Vertigo, or let's say a Coldplay or Taylor Swift concert, what you'll find at the Rogers Arena, the Rogers Stadium,
Yeah.
and we started out Auditorium AI with the ethos to get each and every one of these artists, venues, and performers access to world class production. So it started out with that, and I'll run you through what Auditorium AI does. So take a moment and imagine you're at a Coldplay concert. There are a lot of lights in the arena, right? You'll have Sharpies, spark cans, strobe lights, wash lights, the spotlight. Then you've got a few pyrotechnics going up every few minutes. Then there's an extensive array of LED displays behind you. Now, someone needs to control all of this. It's usually the geeky looking guy in the back with a complicated console and 100 faders he has to mess with. And we believe that light design is unnecessarily complex, hence requiring a trained human operator, which more often than not results in a subpar and expensive show. So that's where Auditorium AI really comes in. We take in the audio that's playing on stage, whether it's a band, whether it's a DJ. We have a camera that's seeing what happens on stage. And then our proprietary AI engine analyzes the mood of all of these things. We look at the beats per minute, whether it's romantic, whether it's Latin American, whether it's reggae, whatever the genre is, and put out an emotionally and context-aware light show that feels intentional. So, to give you a few examples, when Fiend goes on in the nightclub, everyone knows that at the beat drop, the lights strobe red and white aggressively. Auditorium AI can do that. Or when Love Story goes on, you put a very gentle pink and white fade for Taylor Swift. Or let's say, you're at a gala dinner where the chief guest is walking up the stage. Auditorium AI will be able to turn up the fanfare music very gently in the background and throw some confetti at the pivotal handshake moment. So it's a lot of context aware understanding, and we've piloted at about 30 plus Toronto venues and looking forward to gain a lot more traction in the coming month. We're also extremely grateful to all the people who've supported us. Primarily, I'd like to thank Sharif from the Spur Venture Studio located in Waterloo. These guys have funded us to build out our MVP. They made a lot of introductions for us across the entire venture capital and entertainment space in Toronto. We're first generation immigrants into Canada. We've come recently. So they've been really pivotal in helping us understand the Canadian market and the way Canadian entrepreneurship works. So always thankful to them. apart from that, UofT has been great. They've provided us with some office space, lab space. They've also chipped in with some non-dilutive grants to help grow the startup. So yeah, ever thankful to all these different entities who've come together and built
It's
this.
so interesting. So like I've always had this prejudice about like engineers and folks who study a lot that they don't do anything else. All they do is they study, they look at these technical things every day. But it looks like the new generation, which is interesting because it kind of mimics what's happening with software and hardware, like they're coming together. You guys are also very technical, but also know how to really enjoy life and live life, because this is partying, this is music, this is light, this is fun. So you guys are doing both, and like that's amazing. Like I think you guys are just evolving. I mean, you are proof that the human race is evolving from just being very specific into like you guys are AGI essentially. You guys can handle it all. You can do it both.
Uh,
Which leads me to the question is how do, and I don't want you to speak for a co-founder, but how do students like yourself find the time to do this? Is this really that easy for you? Are you living life on easy mode that you can just, while you're at one of the, I think, hardest schools? I've had a few friends go to UofT and they've told me it's a very competitive space. So while you're doing that, right, while you're adjusting to a new environment, living in Toronto completely, I don't know if you have your families with you, but most likely you don't, because it's only for the student. So without your support system and your new place and everything, then you also find time to do the startup AI. What's the secret? Like, how does this happen?
the secret is two words: naive optimism. You
Okay.
think you do it all, and when you throw yourself in the mix, you realize that, oh my God, I'm screwed. But since I've committed, I gotta get through. So yeah, I think it's about that. Before getting into the startup or the university or any of my other projects for that matter, I very seldom understood the gravitas and time and energy commitment they require. And once I was already thrown into the mix, I'm like, okay, crap, this is cool. I gotta, take it to the end now. I think simply that there isn't any time management mantra I have. It's just working really hard, getting the right people around you. Uh,
So I believe it. I believe it because naive optimism, which is a great word, by the way, I use delusion, but naive optimism is a much better word, is how I found you. Like I reached out to you. I didn't expect a response, right? But you responded. So hey, great, right? Like and now we got to do this. And now I have to talk to you. And I think more people should be doing that. And it's okay if you fail. It's okay if everything goes wrong. But what I've found so far, and even with with being part of next gen professionals, like that's definitely quite a lot for me. And I didn't know anything about events and how to do operations for events. But you get into it and people help. Like that's what I've noticed. People tend to help you when they see that you're trying to do something, and it's a genuine effort, and people just come out of the woodwork like, hey, I can help you, I can show you, it's easy, and you're like, oh, it's working out. Then you're scared again because it's gonna fail. So I definitely believe that.
I think to add on to you, we also have another advantage right now called the age advantage. When you're between, let's say, 17 and 25, 26, a lot of people are inclined to listen to you. They want to hear the, fresh new generation, your ideas. Like the biggest, most inaccessible CEOs in Toronto have picked up a single cold call and they just hear the energy and see that, okay, you're gaining some traction. And they're more than happy to come and help out because a lot of them have been in very similar positions at this age. And there's been that one person who's always helped out. So honestly, exploit that to the maximum and reach out to as many people because a lot of people who seem supposedly inaccessible are actually pretty accessible just if you're doing the right thing or working on the right projects.
Absolutely, same experience over here. Absolutely, and it seems it's that saying of like you can cut through the noise. If the signal is sincere, it'll cut through the noise, and you'll get to the place. So yeah, I absolutely love that you are in this way. Um, so where do you go from here? I know you mentioned you're looking to take some time off, or I don't know what's your plan moving forward.
So the plan is, we're lucky enough to have some runway for the next year.
Okay,
So my co-founder, I, and the core team will be taking some time off from university to go build out Auditorium AI, give it the best shot we have,
nice.
and hopefully achieve our dream of number one, making it to a Coldplay concert with our lighting,
Okay.
and number two, giving every little artist world class production that they deserve.
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna see what I can do. I'm gonna see what I can do because I've had a lot of luck on X, and this is why I love X as well. I mean, I love all social media, but X in particular, and it's back to that access. And X is one of those platforms where I've added at, like, the Cloud Code creator and a bunch of other folks, and they respond, and I'm like, what? How did you respond to me? So I'm gonna see once I post this if I can tag Coldplay, because I think this is such a great idea, and what you're doing is kind of in the mission of an engineer, right? If you just take the family of engineers, which is democratizing technology, and like you said, to do what Auditorium AI is doing at a big level is possible, but it costs a lot. So if something is possible but it costs a lot, then what's the point? Like, I have no access to that. But like, even I, like, first thing I'm thinking when he told me, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go talk to the team and say, hey, can we maybe work with Auditorium AI, because we have events, and lights is like a huge thing for us because it looks great on camera and video, and you need it for marketing, etc., etc. So I'm definitely gonna see if I can do something with my magic.
Would absolutely love that, Ludo. I think what we realized to Auditorium AI is a stellar AV experience really influences the entire ambience and vibe of an event. Number one, as you said, from a marketing perspective,
Yeah.
and number two, for a lot of high performing venues in Toronto, we see it very directly correlates with drink sales and the revenue and the people you're able to get through the door frame that night. And I think another thing we learned is while you're selling a product, you don't want to tell people about the experience you create, but you want to build a business case into the product itself about, okay, by buying my product you don't lose money but you actually make money. So what we have started off lately with Auditorium AI is we tap into venues POS machines. We have cameras on the truss bar of the stage. We look at the crowd. We make a heat map of the dance floor, and over time we're able to make a very solid business case with data analytics that having a better audiovisual experience leads to more revenue for your venue, more drink sales. It leads to happier performers. And we're also able to give the venue insights as to which performers did better, who brought in more people, who
Interesting.
brought in a more passionate community that spent more at your venue. And I
Interesting.
think
Interesting.
all of these business insights are absolutely invaluable to an owner who needs to make decisions. And we're trying to be at the forefront of providing these.
Okay, so it's more than just a lighting system. It
It,
seems to be. It seems to be. Like, I don't know what to word it. It's like there's a ghost is watching everything and taking notes. Okay, here's what happened. Here's what happened.
so
Nice. Nice.
the
Okay.
lighting system was just the wedge or the foot into these places, but the eventual goal is becoming the operating system of these high performing venues, right? All the way from audio to crowd management to security. And we see it can all be done so much more cohesively using technology because if you remember the Astro World disaster,
Yeah. Right. 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 Yeah.
people died in a stampede.
Yeah.
So there's a metric called crush count, which we're currently tracking to
Okay.
make sure that not too many people are crowded up in a specific area of the auditorium. And if that's the case, we're able to turn down the mics and throw out an automated warning, guys, move or the show stops.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
I think so many very very essential features can be implemented through AI, and we're really really happy to be in the entire space and building.
It's beautiful, and I think the future. I know we've been very virtual. I mean, even this meeting is virtual, but I think it's moving to, again, going back to the software hardware. I think we're moving towards in real life, right? IRL events, even at work. Like, for me, I'm one of those freaks that goes to work in person, like just me. Like, no one else comes, but it's just my personality. I like to be outside. I like to leave the house. I feel better when I'm out there, and I think this is a great idea because it'll enhance the experience, and I like that it's coming from the youth. A lot of time, at least to my knowledge, a lot of the, like, let's say, party and events come from, in my opinion, folks that are seeming to, like, aim for the wrong signal. And I know you guys are also looking at revenue and everything, which is great, but I think inherently, because you're so young, you're still looking at life from a different perspective and a different lens, and I think that's very necessary when building these things. Very, very cool. I want to talk about the startup world. So it seems, I know in the tech world and engineering, startups have always, they go hand in hand because you're making things, so you want to focus on that thing, etc. How do you think, for your generation, the startup pressure is impacting your decisions in terms of your career choice? Because I think a lot of people want to have their own startup, want to have their own thing, right? And some people are planning to exit, some people are planning to keep and grow that business till the very end. Are there people that are thinking about employment, that they find value in going to the big techs, or maybe they don't have an idea, but look, I like Vedant's idea and I'd like to support him and go there. How does Vedant see all of this play out around him? Because you definitely seem the startup type, but maybe I'm just judging you, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Um, so, I think both are great avenues, working in a corporate job and working at a startup. But there's a very special time about these 2 years where AI is really taking off. So you're at a point where you've got all the foundational models and OpenAI API, Cloud Code, all of these beautiful models at your disposal. And at the same time, you've seen the venture capital market take off like never before. Because this is very similar to the 2008 time where in the same span of plus or minus 3 years, you saw Airbnb, DoorDash, Uber, all of these new gen startups come out.
Yeah.
We're at a very similar, 2-3 year window where you're going to see a lot of application layer AI startups emerge. And what the venture capital world is seeing is money is coming in from private equity, the stock market, the commodities market, all being thrown into venture capital, and they're supporting so many students, innovators, and builders just to go and try different things. Because as a venture capitalist, they know that if I throw my money in 20 different directions of AI applications, something or the other will stick and make it big.
Right.
So I think this is a very golden 2 to 3 year window where it's the best time to build because you've got the resources available. The market is far from saturated in the application layer. And honestly, for me, it seemed like a no-brainer because there's a very low risk, right? I have nothing to lose. I'm 19. I don't have a family. I don't have kids. I can, university is taken care of for me. So I can just go out and build and try to create the most impact possible.
Absolutely, absolutely. So walk me through a prediction from Vedant in 20 to 30 years, right? Right now, the focus is manufacturing, data centers, LLMs. In 20 to 30 years, right? Vedant would have gone maybe through some different projects and et cetera, finished school. Where is Vedant and where is the world in terms of what are we investing in? What is VC investing in? Is it VC even the format that we're going? Are people just going to bootstrap? Like, yeah, look, I don't want a VC. Like, I'm going to figure it out with the consumer directly or whoever I'm marketing towards. How does Vedant see 2050, 2060?
I have a feeling I'm going to get into trouble for this interview because all predictions 20 to 30 years down the line have been horridly wrong. But the way I see it is AI is changing the landscape at such a rapid rate. I'm more of an optimistic guy, and I believe that a lot of the pedantic tasks humans are currently doing, so many jobs, will get taken away by AI, which isn't always a bad thing because if society restructures itself in a more equitable way, we'll have a lot of more free time to do creative stuff, things we like. And a lot of trades like, international relations, law, diplomacy, music, art, creativity will really, really, really become tenfold more valuable because that's what makes us intrinsically human. Right. And, again, ties into Auditorium AI and why we're trying to empower these, guys, because I think a lot of other tasks like accounting or coding or infra will be automated by AI. So, yeah, I think that's where the world is headed. Where is Vedant headed? Honestly, might seem dystopian, but one of the activities that gives me the most pleasure is teaching.
Okay.
So probably a high school physics teacher. I do take a lot of workshops in and around Toronto at UofT with another organization called Learn It. Teach high school students robotics and design thinking, really. And yeah, I think that's something I'd really love myself doing. If finances weren't a constraint, it's something that makes me truly happy.
That's interesting. You say high school instead of university. Is there a reason why high school specifically?
Because I find, high school is that time where students have a super malleable mind. They're just making their career choices. And it's your onus to excite them with science and engineering and technology. And I really love teaching that demographic of kids.
Nice. And okay, then I'd love to talk about this because I'm a huge believer of university. I know I mentioned this previously in our chat where there seems to be a trend of, oh, you don't need university, you don't need school, you can just do it on your own. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not judging anyone that doesn't go that route. But I think the value of university on top of the knowledge and everything like that, but I think the true value is you find people like yourself, right? Like the same way you found your co-founder. Like, how else would you find someone who got that exact type of, like you guys share that, right? And you also shared a room. Like that's quite intimate, and you're going through the same challenges, like very similar challenges. Where else would you create a system to find, someone from Mumbai in Kenya? Like that's impossible nearly. So I think that's the value of school. What do you see the future of school and how the technology is going to impact it in the next 20 or 30 years?
Honestly, I think school is going to stay pretty similar. Yes, we'll have better classrooms, better laboratories, better ways of pedagogy and teaching. But at its essence, the human to human interaction, whether it's between a student and a student or a professor and a student, is really what makes university unique, right? Uh, at the end, it's always about the people you meet and not the transcript that comes out at the end. And I think just so many ways of teaching and learning are not possible without human interaction. For example, I'm a part of the IEEE club at the University of Toronto, and we host a lot of different workshops here. And one of the closest to my heart was last semester, we hosted an Edge AI workshop. That's basically in a 3 hour workshop, we take about 100 university students and get them to build their first ever edge detection AI device. So that's basically all of them built it for different applications. One was counting people going through a door, all the computing happening on a little Raspberry Pi at the edge using uh, Edge Impulse, who later sponsored us. Thank you, Edge Impulse. But uh, I think without having an amazing team at IEEE, we wouldn't have been able to condense these incredibly complex concepts into a 3 hour workshop and make it so accessible for all these students. Because when we have these workshops, it's usually one guy speaking and giving instructions, and a team of 10 to 15 mentors running around the room and solving all these little issues students face. Without this, they would have taken maybe at least a week to self learn it. And just creating these incubators for learning, or universities, in other words, really aids the process. And yes, I do agree, dropping out is an amazing way to go. But unless you've seen that sort of traction with the project, and unless the opportunity cost of staying in university is too high, I'd recommend that it's good to go to university solely due to the people you meet and the accelerated learning environment.
I love it. I just had an idea for Auditorium AI, right?
Go on.
What about universities and high schools? Is there a way that you can implement? It doesn't have to be the music, maybe the music too, but is there a way you can get all this information and maybe find some data to push the student? Because I know for me, one thing I hated about school, which by the way, I had a perfect attendance, so I always went, but it didn't mean I liked it every time, was I was very like antsy, like I couldn't stop moving, like my brain was like racing. I wanted to pay attention, but then I'll have like 5 minutes of blank. I'm like, oh, what just happened? What did I miss? I had to look at my notes. Can Auditorium AI maybe go in that direction, or is that something you don't want to talk about right now?
Um,
I thought about
no,
it. So
I think definitely we could head in that direction. A lot of different directions have come about off lately for Auditorium AI, with the restaurant industry and expanding. Uh, with the specific one for universities and schools, there are a lot of laws around student surveillance and tracking, so it's kind of hard to get into.
yeah,
But yes, it's always on the table. Although I tend to notice with really early stage startups like Auditorium AI, the key is finding your ICP, or ideal client profile,
yeah.
and honing down on that one wedge and significantly capturing, I'd say, giant part of a smaller market before you can move and dip your fingers into different directions. But yes, it's definitely something that is on the cards and hopefully comes to fruition one day.
You brought up a really important point, that there is a lot of legality against tracking and everything like that. I'd love to know how you think about what's the perfect trade-off between engineering, right, and a solution, and privacy. Because I'll share my side first. I believe that we haven't had privacy for a while. Like I think now we're starting to talk about it, but privacy has been gone for at least 10 years. Like I think ever since social media came out, like I was around doing MSN. You probably don't know what MSN is, but MSN came out in 2006, 2004. Well, actually before that, that's when I was using it. It's kind of a messenger, and then we went to Facebook, and I've been posting everything on there. I've been speaking with strangers. I used to play RuneScape and World of Warcraft, talking to strangers, telling them everything about myself. Like it wasn't weird then. It's weird now, but it wasn't weird then to talk like that, or on Xbox or PlayStation. So when people now start talking about like, oh, tracking and this and that, I understand, and I think that there is real risk there. But I also think that there's a sweet balance of like, hey, like I think we're putting too many rules that are going to stop us from some amazing things. Yes, there may be risk, but like everything, right? It comes as a double-edged sword. Like no great solution comes as, hey, this is just good. No, like everything comes, there's a good and a bad. We have to be mature and smart about how we do it. But I'd love to get your thoughts on the balance.
I think, Lurio, this is something that really scares me because there's a host of technologies when paired together could end up being super dangerous. For example, uh, right here in Toronto at UHN, Elon Musk's first Neuralink chip was installed in the head of a human.
Right.
For those of you who don't know, Neuralink is a little brain machine interface chip that can read your thoughts and also trigger certain muscles of yours to maybe improve Alzheimer's or just interface with your brain in a lot of different capacities. So with such technologies, number one, you're quintessentially linking your head to the cloud, and not a lot stays private.
Right.
Now, the second layer to that is we are seeing the onset of ASI, or artificial superintelligence. It's this entity of knowledge who's able to make the most compelling cohesive arguments. And Lurio, let's say I had to convince you to what's something funny. Now, let's say I had to convince you to run a 100-kilometer ultra marathon with me from the harbor front to the Niagara Falls. I don't think me and my current self would be charming or eloquent enough to do that.
No.
If I had artificial superintelligence on my side, it could have made all the sets of right arguments,
Yeah.
and convinced you to
Yeah.
a point you would have actually tried something like that.
Right.
And when something can directly tap into your brain and it's an entity that's far more smarter than you, and with the way current democracy works, you don't know which player's hand is all of these things in.
Right.
People at a mass might be influenced into doing things against their interest. We're already seeing a bit of it with social media and the way those dynamics are working.
Yeah.
But with artificial superintelligence and brain machine interface paired together, yes, privacy does go to the dogs. And more importantly, you've got the ability to influence populations at a mass, which really does scare me and
Yeah.
makes me pray that these technologies end up in the right hand, because it has tremendous potential for good. But if it ends up with the wrong players, it could be catastrophic for us.
The good always wins. So I'm definitely proud, and the future is clearly in the right hands. I'm gonna stop there, Vedant, because I'm gonna keep going. But I know this is a Sunday. By the way, this is being recorded on a Sunday, and I just took Vedant's 1 hour and a half away from him. So
It was a
again,
pleasure, Lurio.
thank you so much, and can't wait to check in with you in a year or so to see where you're at. Although I'm pretty sure things move faster for you, but I'm definitely gonna catch you within the next
I
year.
love
Okay?
that, Lurio.
Thank you, Vedant.